Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to HIYA Live Sessions. I'm so excited today because we have two very special guests on the session. Welcome Felukah and Christina Hazboun to the Arab and Middle Eastern Journalists Association. Today, as we celebrate not only Women's History Month, but also the 10th year of the Arab Revolutions, we want to launch our HIYA Live Sessions Festival with a conversation about the role of women in movements of radical change. And since we have one of the sort of most influential musicians from the region, Felukah, from New York, calling in from New York, but originally from Cairo, Felukah is known as the neo-soul voice of the Nile. And she's actually dropping a new video today, right after this panel. So thanks for being here, Felukah. How are you?
Thank you for having me. This is so great. It feels really great and really full circle to be here and to be on this panel with you today. Yeah, it just feels so great. I mean, like we were speaking earlier before we even went live, these live just versions of ourselves online are so strange to fully, come to terms with. But I feel like we're all kind of going through that trippy experience of being online and stuff. So it's cool. I feel like we're all in this together. Just versions of ourselves online are so strange to fully,
And Christina, hi, sorry for that.
Hello.
I was trying to follow the live. So Christina is a sonic agent surfing sound waves in search of orgasms. She is an explorer of music in space, time, and society while researching musical scenes in the SWANA region. She also leads on MARSM UK's PR and communication, promoting music from the Arabic-speaking world and curates films and music for the digital program. I also want to remind us that Christina is actually a partner in HIYA Live Sessions, which starts tomorrow with 12 hours of straight live performances from incredible musicians from Yerevan to Tehran. And Christina interviewed Yaz Ahmed and Rasha Nahas for HIYA Live Sessions. Felukah recorded an incredible video from this like magical home in Brooklyn, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first, I wanted to share our trailer video for HIYA Live Sessions, which sets the tone for today's conversation. It was made by our media partner, Scene Noise. So stay tuned and follow the video.
Writing in Arabic as a Middle Eastern woman is not easy.
If you can really communicate something that is honest for the sake of that art, I think that's revolutionary.
I always felt that I needed to break free from all the chains and all the traditions.
The women throughout history who've not been credited for their role in composing and in actually shaping the music that came out.
I kept searching for a music that would give me what I was craving to hear and see. Couldn't find it, I made it.
فهمنا انه حطيتوا النسوان on the front line قدام الدرك قدام مكافحة الشغب. النسوان قدها وقدود بس مش شي جديد.
So there we are. It's a very inspiring video that really like has all the incredible energy of the sets and all the musicians. Felukah, let us know a little bit more about, you know, what this video addresses in terms of the revolutionary energy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you know, the energy that we put, you know, together, just writing the music before we even like performed it for the live session, it all comes back to the revolution. I feel like it's always coming from a place, I mean, just from my perspective, looking at anything in this world, like it comes from a place of wanting to just have that revolution live on, and see that kind of change being mirrored in like the people that consume the art that we're making. So I think topically it's very much present in the music and in the session itself. Like the way we recorded it was all in this one house that you kind of just travel into different rooms, and like we physically play different songs in these different rooms. And you know, it's all part of the same discography of the same artist. It's all part of the same house. It's kind of just like the same feeling that you get when you see different facets of society all being, you know, just kind of turned over on its head just after like one revolution that might have stemmed from political unrest, but really it filters into every aspect of living. And I think, you know, we try to kind of just emulate that idea and that concept that cross pollination is a byproduct of that revolution. It lives on. And you know, people will be like, oh well, if we didn't get exactly what we wanted from whatever it was, then it failed. But I just don't believe that. I really feel like, well, this is such a long answer for such a small question that you asked me. But yeah, I mean, to wrap it all up again, I think yeah, it's both the form and the content of the set that I felt was embedded in Revolution.
Totally. And speaking of which, so you just dropped for Women's Day, you dropped a new track, What She Done.
Yes.
The video is going to drop like literally after this panel.
That's facts. I'm super excited because this track has been like sitting with me in my system for a minute, and I was just waiting for the right time for it to really be out in the world. I directed my first video for this, because I realized that like my ideas were always the ones being, you know, used for the art that I'm making. Obviously, it's my music, but I guess being a woman, I kind of just like, you know, people always offered, like male directors were always coming up to me with their ideas, and it was kind of just like, oh, I'll just be there on set and just perform what you want me to do. And this song, I felt empowered enough writing it that I was like, no, let me see through this vision, let me direct for it, let me really like just have full control over my art. And it's just been the most amazing experience. I'm really excited to share what we've come up with.
I would love to hear some challenges of that, actually, because it takes guts to say, you know,
For sure.
I want it this way.
No, it does. And I think, you know, it's crazy because looking back at the videos I've released before, I realized in going through the chats and stuff, I was directing these videos. I was breaking down the shots and the ideas and the locations. But then some other dude would come in and just be like, all right, this is how we're doing it, kind of just like really put it together. And then it's suddenly directed by them. Um, and I kind of just was tired of it. I was also inspired by Billie Eilish's film that I watched recently called The World's a Little Blurry. And in it, she literally gets off of a set and goes, I'm going to direct all my videos from here on out. Because you kind of just feel like a puppet. You're like, this is my music. And yet somebody's putting me in my music to perform how they want me to do it. And no, it's just not a vibe. So I kind of just stood my ground throughout the whole process. All the men I worked with were very open, very understanding. Like it was clear. I said, I want to direct this visual. So you're welcome to help me, you know, bring that into fruition. But it is my vision, it's my ideas. So it was literally like, if I didn't like something in the text, I don't acknowledge it. I'm just texting my ideas and I'm just going for it. That's how it is. Like,
yeah. Did you notice a difference between like a male gaze and female gaze through that process?
Definitely. It's interesting because in the past, like I've worked mainly with women on set as in terms of like who I'm trying to showcase in my videos, but then on behind the camera is mainly men producing the music or, you know, directing the visual, even editing the visual. And so like there's always a little bit of a trip up between like who's performing and who's really editing this. But with this one, because I was very involved in the editing process, I felt like I was able to just say like, this is what I want to see. This is the kind of flow. I gave multiple references of like videos that I felt really showcased like feminine energy as interpreted by a woman. So I feel like that really helped. And I think I really at the root of it, like an open progressive brain is like pretty genderless. Like, I don't think we're intentionally, any of my male friends are out here going like, let me put this male gaze on, let me take this male gaze off. Like, you can't do that. You're just kind of born into it. But I think that if you are open enough, there's always room to expand, to change. And I've really watched these guys that I work with usually change, you know, and just be like, if this is good with you, Felukah, I could do this. If this is good with you, then I could blah blah blah. And that's what I'm trying to hear more, for sure, about my work, you know. It's crazy that it took this long.
Totally. And we were talking also about decolonization. So in terms of the male gaze, how about also, you know, the colonizing gaze of whoever decides to come and like take ownership of our culture?
Exactly.
Happens a lot. And you know, we're being orientalized and exoticized and reduced specifically as women to certain ways. Like in our festival lineup, we really made a point of not having any really of that kind of music that people would expect coming out of the region. A lot of the music which chose is like very noisy, very experimental, you know, also crossing genre, you know, genre bending, like yourself, Luca, you're playing, you know, neo soul, you're inspired by hip hop, but you also sing in Arabic, you read poetry. So we can't put you in a box. We can't put Christina in a box. We can't put me in a box. So this is the process of decolonization, right? Is to liberate ourselves from like these narratives we've been reduced to. What do you both think?
Do you want to start with that, Christina? I could jump off of, yeah.
Well, I think, you know what, I think decolonization works on so many levels, from the language that we use, from the image that we project, from the sounds that we implement as well. And I think that this whole huge effort of bringing so many varied women into the mix, into here, I think has been brilliant in showing us and showcasing us in a different way. And also the fact that, you know what, where each woman is so different and so unique and do not conform to a certain stereotype. So I think that it's having that freedom of us saying what we want, how we want it, is part of giving us our voice back.
100%. I also feel like, and this is kind of, it's an interesting one to like think about, but I feel like sometimes effortlessness and the not carelessness really, it's kind of just like a casual means of being that I've seen, you know, demonstrated a lot in like white culture, that I don't see much in brown or black culture, because I feel like there's always this pressure to perform, even if we're not being exoticized by the other, we kind of just do it to ourselves because we're used to having to like just appear somehow, notice me, I gotta put on mad colors, I gotta be alien and weird and funky and mystical and all of these things. And it's like sometimes to just be stripped down, you yourself, with no guarantee of performativity or no anything, for me, that's how I'm like decolonizing my music a little bit. Like, they want to see me be extra, they want to see me, you know, this and that, and all the like, you know, rappers delight flexes of big cars and money and whatever. But it's like, I mean, to really like turn that on its head and really like make people look at the music itself is my goal. So I think there's so many ways to answer your question. There's so many ways to reject those notions of colonization in our art, but it's really, like Christina said, it's just freedom. It's that, you know, empowering feeling that, well, I'm going to choose how I'm going to reclaim my art, and that's what it's going to look like. And whether that is performing, you know, and being very performative in that way, or just not giving an F in that other way, it's still the same, in my opinion.
Shirine, actually, I would love to know if you had this on your mind when you and Natalie put this together.
Absolutely, and that's why we chose the term SWANA as well, you know, because we have artists from Yerevan to Tehran, and for us, you know, of course, the legacy of Pan-Arabism is so important, but we're in a different time today, and I think now instead of really focusing on what separates us, on the boundaries and the borders of the front, you know, I think for us to look at what actually brings us together, you know, like, you know, there have been uprisings in Iran, there have been uprisings in Armenia, obviously Egypt, Lebanon, Palestine, all these places. And so how are we united artistically is a question we've been considering with this lineup and with this curation. And I think if you tune in tomorrow and really like stay with us, and as Felukah said, like it really comes with the feeling and the intuition. It doesn't even have to come from the mind. It's really like with the body and just being present and feeling what you know, what's being expressed, and coming together in solidarity with that expression, I think that's the movement. You know, that's the decolonizing movement, is to say, like, to center us, to center our joy, our solidarity, and you know.
Yes. 100%. No.
Because
Sorry.
interviewing a lot of these musicians over the years, and I'd love to hear what you think about, you know, what makes all these musicians work, kind of also come together.
Yeah, no, I think for a lot of musicians, identity is at the heart of the whole even struggle, because it's that expectation of us having one identity that can be listed in 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I find with many artists whom I've interviewed and many artists who perform, you can see that they change, their preferences change, how they dress, they change. For example, I focused in my research on the music scene in Palestine. And if you look at the history there and you see that portraying women with the kufiya or the tatriz, this has changed. And I think from the Arab revolutions of 2011, you can see that there's more of a variety available for especially women as well, because I think at that point, women occupied public spaces. You know, women went into the streets, and for further generations, this is what everyone saw further down the line, women fighting alongside men, which wasn't seen before in such a degree across the Arabic-speaking world or in other areas. So yeah, it's how we dress as well, how we speak, and the topics that we cover. I mean, like I was thinking, and I'm very well impressed by, I have to say this, Felukah's song, Rain. I mean, the way you tackle the guys and everything, I thought, you know what? All respect for you to name them all out, you know? Yeah. This is still a problem in our society.
It's true. No, I mean, it's so funny that you bring up that song, because it's like such an old song from like an old mixtape that I don't listen to, but it was that track that started a lot of conversations, especially obviously at my school, where like people knew these boys, you know, and I had these boys reaching out to me with so many different reactions, like, only like, oh, it was the girl's fault, like, why are you still pitching for, like, why are you still vouching for this, is like old, blah blah blah, and they messed up. And then some that apologized to me also, and were just like, damn, I didn't know this affected you like that, so I apologize. And I was like, that's cool too. And even some guys that were like checking me out, like Felukah made a song about me and she called my name out in the track, and I'm like, you know what, that's, if you're still proud, like, great, just give me more streams, like, we both win, I guess. But I don't even know. It was definitely more of a for me kind of thing. Like, for me to get that closure, I needed to just say their names out and be like, damn, like, y'all think you can hide, but you can't.
Yeah, but you're spelling it out in words, and you're discussing social issues that are very relevant, that if we were to look at, me and Shirine were saying before we started the panel, Kulthum and the topics that she tackled in her songs, and she's an icon, obviously. But how much of the society did she talk about, and their problems, their everyday problems?
Right. Damn. I mean, she's super inspiring to me for sure, like on so many levels, yani. That goes without saying.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that women's role within the, if we want to call it, industry has changed as well. You have so much more agency to express yourself and to say, I want to direct that this way, you know?
Exactly. No, it's a really exciting time, I think, to be creating art, because of the idea, like the limitlessness of independent art is really, really cool. The fact that I could just choose, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna put this out with this label, I'm gonna hire a PR company if I want more magnitude, I'm gonna exit it all and just really just on the beach. Like, you could do anything. So it's really, really fire, and I feel like that's what really makes me realize that, like, yeah, we have full agency and full control in a way that women haven't had before. So it's a real privilege.
So in terms of talking about that legacy of feminists from the SWANA region, because it's not new, you know, I mean, some people may not realize that, you know, we were pioneers not only of like knowledge, history, and culture of the region, you know, and maybe we need to remind people of that, like Egypt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where civilization started in so many ways, and so was the region of Palestine and so on, the Mediterranean.
Yes.
Poetry is not something that's new for us at all. So there are these traditions, and then there's traditions also of feminism, feminist magazines, for example, in Cairo in the 20s, feminist voices, feminist filmmakers, like I'm thinking about Hani Sroor, of course, Christina, who documented female revolutionaries from Palestine and so on. So
And
there's
in Oman, yeah.
it's not new. What's new maybe is the opportunity, as you mentioned, for female musicians to really overcome the challenges of the industry, the structural challenges, where it's like you don't need a male agent, you don't need a label, you can just make the music yourself. You don't even need a musician. Like, you can actually make the music yourself with these programs, put it out yourself, promote it yourself, have, with social media, which we should definitely talk about, reach other people, create networks of solidarity, right?
It's
And
very
dialogue.
true.
And
Yeah,
then
and
that's
this is
a new movement.
and this is where Shireen, the other thing is visibility. That the social media and the tools that come with it has given us the platforms and the visibility, I think.
It's very true.
And I mean, Felukah, I think you can talk about it most
Anna, for
out of us,
me,
I think.
yeah, no, I think this is the whole reason, this is the whole way my career really kickstarted, is like I was able to put tracks out and just keep promoting myself. And I connected with so many people on Instagram. I have so many Insta friends, like so many of my friends are online that I just like connect with, never even met, but have recorded music with and put music out with, and I never even met them. It's crazy. But and that's really just the reach of the internet and social media. And of course it's a double-edged sword, like especially as um just like part of the youth. And even I really think about my little sister and like her generation. She's 20 right now, 20 years old and younger, like growing up with your sense of self being measured by these like stupid algorithms and how many likes you get, and if your song reaches a number of views on Instagram or not. That's not art, and that's not the way it should have been. But it's, I guess we're all trying to figure out like how to really deal with this huge thing that is the internet. And I think there really is a way to like grab the stick by the middle and kind of just use it to convey your message and to get your info out there and to reach people really, but never really to take it as the full representation of yourself or your art or how somebody's doing. Like people will take that as indications of like, Felukah's doing great, she's putting out songs all the time, she's doing this and that. I could be dying inside, you don't know that. Like it's never an accurate like gauge of how somebody's doing or what they're really like. So I feel like that's important to talk about in social media, because people get really, really anxious about. I feel like that's what caused my generation a lot of anxiety and depression, is feeling like we're not validated online, because you'll never be validated by a stupid app. Like you will not. But I mean, like I said, it is a very powerful tool at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to speak of the pros and cons of this modern day era where you can get the exposure, but it also can harm your internal belief in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it unites us as well.
Yeah, how about the capacity of social media to, to trigger social change and movements of revolution? I think we were talking about this earlier, and many of the musicians on the lineup were seen as the voice of the revolution. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Felukah.
No, I agree.
Like to be reduced that way, but I'm pretty sure you did have an influence on the revolutionary youth. So what's the role of social media in this energy?
Damn, I mean, I think it's really important just for, like I said, getting information out there quick, efficiently, and to a large amount of people. I mean, like we know about the power of Facebook in 2011, that seemed to do something. And even now, like I was using Instagram during the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer to be like, yo, I'm gonna be in Washington Square Park in like 10 minutes, who's there? And my friends hit me up and we're all there in like seconds. It's really, really crazy. So I think something like that is just, yeah, no, you can't even deny how powerful that is in bringing people together under like the same cause or the same, thing that they're passionate about, the same topic really. I've never seen anything like it before, and it feels really powerful that I could just be like, yo, I'm gonna be at this thing. Who's gonna be there? Immediately from all around the world, people are like, oh, this, that. It's essential. It's a very instrumental tool, I think, in revolution, in movements in general, yani.
Yeah, but even if I think about Lebanon and Beirut and the revolution and the protests that were going on there, not last year, the year before, also the amount of art that comes within a revolution is massive. It's a process, right? It's not like it's determined at a specific time when it erupts. It's still happening, and therefore if we talk about the Arab revolutions from 2011, they haven't really finished, you know, that we're living the outcome of them through the creations and creativity of the artists who have experienced them.
Damn, absolutely. No, that resonates with me a lot. And I feel like, you know, anybody who's really quick to, I'm really conscious about the language we use about things that are meant to inspire and to motivate and to really facilitate change. You know, like I see a lot of content online that's like, and this is a more of a women's and gender issue, but about sexual harassment in Egypt or in the Middle East in general. And they'll be like screenshotting comments of really hateful things that men have said and really like violent images. And I'm like, this is not the activism that feels comfortable for me. Like, I don't understand why a lot of people are gravitating to that. And I think that like a danger of that is like, or sorry, to offset that, what we need to do is really inject the scene with the positivity and the love and the just the general change that we want to see, not what we're trying to leave. And that's what I feel is a really big mishap, is like, of course it gets depressing to be thinking about all these heavy topics, heavy as they are by nature. You don't want to see all of the rhetoric being super negative also, and very like just attacking you all the time, make you feel like life is just really not worth living. Like, why would I feel that way? For me, I think it's I try to take that in my art and uplift people in the music and remind people that there's so much to be fighting for, so much that we're still working on changing. And what do you think is going to work better? Me telling a child or an entire like population of people, this is going to be so much better for you, like come with me towards the light, or that's trash, you don't want this, this is what it did to you and all your ancestry. Like, it's just a no-brainer for me. That's yeah.
I mean, I did want to mention that maybe for some who don't know, it's still dangerous to express yourself in the region. Like, it's still an act of courage. Actually, AMEJA interviewed Lina Atalla last month from Mada Masr, and Mada Masr is constantly being shut down, and in the south is constantly being threatened, and it's literally an act of a matter of life or death in terms of freedom of expression, freedom of thought. And it's the case for many musicians and artists throughout the region, women and men. I mean, our dear Samat was in prison last month. So these things are happening every day. So I think it's so important for us to talk about this, to talk about the fact that even singing is an act of rebellion. And Christina, some thoughts about that too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, by singing or by being a creative or an artist, you are putting yourself out there into public space, whether you're doing it from this spot that you're in your private space, but you're still sharing it with the rest of the world, or whether you're going on that massive stage and sharing a piece of yourself and your creation with other people. And I feel that as women, we might feel a little bit more vulnerable than men, because we would have been brought in a certain way to behave in certain ways, and also sometimes it might be even off-putting if you meet somebody who's like managing the whole space and they're too rough or too maybe big or something like that. So there's all of these elements that we have to consider. And like one thing that actually Yaz Ahmed spoke about in the interview that I did with her was about the competition when you're like doing jams. in jazz, and how it's all about who's louder, who's faster, you know. And I'm sure it's the same in rap and hip hop, you know, like with these competitions, and you just feel like female nature is not that way inclined necessarily. So yeah, I think we should think about how this manifests and influences other people who are watching it, who are consuming it, because it is being consumed and internalized as well.
True. Damn, I just want to say on that note of competition, I want to find another word for it, because I feel like at this point that term has gotten so polluted and misconstrued, and maybe at the root of it, it was a healthy thing that all species go through, is this idea of competition to better themselves for survival. But at this point, it's crazy that competition is the main thing that so many artists think about, is, you know, being number one, is beating whatever. There's a whole dissing culture of rappers in Egypt, and of course they're all men. Like, I've never heard a female rapper from Egypt diss anybody. Like, literally has so many other things she could do. But these male rappers are just like, I hear this, that, so he this is him, so he this is him back, so he this is him. Like, it's really wild. And I just, you know, I've never had any interest in it. Whenever I see somebody who is like my peer or my equal, a Middle Eastern female musician, damn, why would that make me sad? I'm like, it's so much less work on me to prove to a whole world what I am and what I could be. Like, please, I'm praying there's more incredible, strong women in the industry that can represent more than just me, because it's hard, yo. And if people really understood that from a place of like, we need a lot of representation all across the board, you know, even when people are like, but it's so much mediocre music, everybody's rapping, but it's all trash, it's all trap. Like, you know what, let it be what it is, man. But if you're not out here to support and show love, then go back to bed or something, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense for me, honestly. I'm not motivated by competition. I'm motivated by my past self and my future self. And and I love seeing people on the rise, yo. What the hell? Like, it's so trippy to me.
Yeah, and I think this is something that we will see throughout the lineup of HIYA as well, that a lot of the musicians and artists are so multi-talented, and they do different things, you know, like the way Felukah, you produce, you write, you do everything. And so there's so much more work for you as a musician to produce.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's like, you don't have time to think about, oh, am I better than them though? Did I top their charts? Like, if you're really in the work and you're invested in what you're doing, all you're really worried about is, you know, doing the best that you can. That's really it. And when it feels like the best, then you're happy. I'm happy with everything I put out, even though I know the next one will be better and the next one. Best, I'm where I am, yani, and here and now is everything. So I really wish more people would see that and appreciate each other with that consciousness more. But
yeah, I feel that being true to yourself is really the best act, the most radical thing you can do, especially in this world where, as a woman, you're constantly being told not to be yourself, right? Be like more like that, fix your hair, change your outfit, don't talk like that, you're too loud, you're not loud enough, too opinionated, like don't swear, you know, like Mona El Tahawi writes about that in her book, all her articles, where she says, you know, I mean, she has a hashtag literally like why I say fuck, because it's like, fuck the patriarchy, right? Like that's not going to change anytime soon.
exactly.
And that's so important to me. And also, I think what we're all talking about and what HIYA is about is this act of radical solidarity, of coming together and supporting each other. And I know Felukah is part of this community of artists that like they all help each other out. Like they take photos for each other, they make music for each other, and help each other, even clothes. So tell us a little more about this solidarity. And also, Christina, in your interviews, you encountered that theme for women, if solidarity has been something that's helped them basically rise.
I think, oh, whichever you want. I could just say, no, on production, in terms of solidarity and in the production of music, I think it really, really feeds the work. Whether or not you're tapped in, it does feed the work, because I am a recording artist, I'm involved in the production of the music, but I'm not the main producer. And so by nature there's collaboration, but beyond the collaboration is solidarity, what you're saying, and that's a different word, because I feel like underpinning that solidarity is this understanding and empathy, and it's involved in this awareness of the person that you're working with, the spirit that you're working with. And I'd love to see more of that in the industry. The moments when I'm in the studio, the moments when I'm doing a shoot or doing whatever it is related to my music with people that I know or don't know, I always try to have that, concept, that idea in my head of being open for this connection to really drive the work. And when you are open and you really get to know people on set and you're sharing names and you're, seeing just vibing out with somebody and feeling their energy, that that feeds the work in ways that you wouldn't have ever imagined, that no rehearsal can really do and no prep time can do. It's just being present and being in the moment with the people that you're with, and realizing that you're going to do something beautiful just because you're being open with this person and they're being open with you. Fa, that solidarity is super important to me, for sure.
I can come into that from a Palestinian perspective, because obviously we have had to sort of defy borders and exile and all sorts of hurdles in order to be able to work, to communicate, and to stay in touch. And I feel that this is something that this current pandemic had almost brought home for the whole world, where we feel like, one, we are so far away from each other, but on the other hand, we are one click away. And so there's the collaboration has always been there, but again, we go back to the theme of the fact that the internet has facilitated and made much easier for all of us to collaborate across the border. And like, if I look at the scene in Ramallah and Haifa, which the Palestinian scene in Ramallah was definitely influenced by Haifa, and they both nurture each other. However, it is really difficult to get across from Ramallah to Haifa. It's easier the other way around, but still we try to do that. And like, I can think of people like Synaptic. He always tells you, because I interviewed him for my research, how he worked with other people through long distance. I mean, a lot of artists have been doing that for quite a while now, and it is becoming more the norm. And I think it's almost like they're acts of musical solidarity that are breaking down borders.
Yeah, when I introduced Suhail Nafar from DAM, and well, he's in the music industry. He just started a new job. At AMEJA's event this winter, he talked about the fact that the first music he heard in Palestine as a kid was basically rap from the US. And when Felukah mentioned the Black Lives Matter protests, it really reminded me of the fact that many of the people I really respect and admire this year have been talking about this cross-cultural solidarity. For example, Angela Davis, obviously, supporting the Palestinian cause, but also others from all over the region, and specifically SWANA, coming together and saying, like, Black and brown women, we stand together against oppression, and that's really important, especially in a culture that tries to really like this identity politics conversation where sometimes it turns into a war and we're just all against each other, in terms of gender identity and race and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'd love to hear, Felukah, how you feel about that cross-cultural solidarity. That's very political, actually.
It is, but I really feel like those, I don't know, for me, when I think of politics, I think I get this weird, gross feeling of just like government. But when I think of politics in the way that we're talking about it, and, as a former English major, I should know better than to say that, because the politics of being a woman are just riddle your everyday life. The politics of being anything are just everywhere. So to answer that question of like cross-cultural solidarity, I think it's super important. I mean, whenever I feel, just by nature of being a musician in this industry, burdened by competition, or like people are trying to push things into my brain to make me get competitive or make me feel like I got to do something up my game for one reason or another, and for not the right reason, really. it takes me a moment to step back and kind of just be like, nah, yo, like I'm doing this differently for myself, for my peers, for like women that look like me, that are like me and kind of going through the same thing. I think about what process looks like to them and what it must look like for them to like see me just constantly pushing, jutting material out with no reflection and no just example of humanity. And that's not, I don't think that's a very accurate representation. Like that cross-cultural solidarity for me is just a very humanizing feeling that no matter at what process or stage in our careers, lives, whatever it is, we come from the same living experience, being black and brown women, black and brown people in general, people of color, having, you know, to go through those processes of decolonizing your brain and just reassociating everything in a positive way that'll make you still want to pursue happiness and freedom, yo. Like, it's a lot of work. So I always have that solidarity with my people. Like, I know what it's like, yo. We're battling so many systems and infrastructures that were put in place by people that don't look like us and don't even care about us. So it sounds so negative, but that's where it comes from. Is like, I feel for anybody who's kind of has an idea of what that's like.
Yeah, Christina, how do you feel about that, having interviewed all these incredible musicians from all over the world?
Oof, you have interviewed many women from around the world as well, and musicians. Yes, definitely. I think that the politics is always involved in one way or another, depending on how we define it. There is the politics of self, there is the politics of the other, there's like different types of politics. But I think, as Felukah mentioned before, the most important thing is that we stay true to ourselves and to the message that our heart is telling us to deliver through our work, which I find that a lot of musicians and artists do that, because it's not an easy profession. I think it's a whole other question about how music is monetized and how artists make a living, and especially now in the pandemic, how not dangerous, but how actually challenging it is for musicians and artists to survive without real life performances. And so it is, and also the whole idea of no dancing allowed. I mean, that is the politics of the body. I mean, I find it so restrictive.
It is very restrictive. I'm dancing all the time.
Yeah.
I'm dancing. I'm
right
dancing.
now, exactly.
I have a question from the audience, and then we're gonna start to wrap. Even though, you know, we'll be together all day tomorrow.
Yes, excited.
The question is, there's been an evolution of popularity of SWANA women's voices in the world, but in the region, we still have many hurdles to overcome, especially in countries where women can't express themselves artistically without fear of political or social reprisals. How can we build bridges of support for them? That's a great question.
It is.
Damn. That's a really good question. And it honestly brings me back to this point of privilege that I have to mention and I have to acknowledge is by living in New York City and being American Egyptian, I am incredibly sheltered from so many things that I wouldn't have to worry about. But that is not a statement to go and say, like, I'm just so lucky I'm out here and like, damn, it sucks. But not at all. Like, I still think I want to be part of the movement back home. I'm back home as often as I can be, just to kind of be close to that idea of not having the outlet. That suffocation feeling is still very close to me, even if I'm now like relieved of it. And I want to encourage those women to really find the avenues, yo, and find the little pockets of secrecy and intimacy with their friends, their colleagues, their visionary artists, where that art can really thrive. It's all about community, and it's these little pockets of utopia that we can't see in our government structures just yet, but I think we will one day, hopefully. But until then, it's just high pressure on your close friendships and more clubs, more initiatives, more little things that are just hideaways in our culture to really, really help each other. Because I feel like, and we didn't talk much about this, but really big allies of mine in my music, the LGBTQ community in the Middle East is just like something that has just gotten, it's so powerful to me. I'm such a strong ally. Like, I have I mean, I'm not gonna say I have so many queer friends. That sounds so weird. But I mean, just the queer community, LGBTQ community is super close to me, and I'm here for them always. And they've really showed me what it's like to have a powerful, community that'll always be there for you, and yeah, will kind of just protect you in that way and not want you to go astray.
Yeah, and I actually think that the queer community is a great sort of example of how, when you are underrepresented and marginalized, you can still unite.
Exactly.
Together in secrecy and in private. And also I can think of another example from Japan. I think it's from like the 16th century, where women used to have their own, they developed their own writing, and they used to write poetry in a language that only women understood.
Oh, that's fire.
Yeah, so I feel like it's difficult and it's challenging, and we can sit here in London and New York and theorize about it, and our sisters in the global south are suffering.
Right.
But we need to think of solutions, right? Because we need to find these solutions and make their lives better. And other than that, I think that acts of solidarity matter hugely, and speaking about things and raising them. And this also brings up the matter of banning women and girls over 12 of singing in Afghanistan, which I find it's absolutely terrible. And I think everyone should have the right to use their own voice, no matter what age, what gender, as long as they're not harming anyone. And so, yeah, if we all try to help each other in whatever little ways possible, even just talking about it, that's one sort of, way of, how do you say it, like expressing it at least, and then you alleviate that pressure and start thinking of solutions.
I completely agree with that. It's very true.
So as we wrap, I just want us to have maybe one last quick conversation about the idea of living in exile. I mean, as a Palestinian, obviously there's a whole tradition of exile poets, exile artists, but all of us have been basically negotiating the spaces of in between. And also speaking, what we're doing right now and what we're doing tomorrow is really speaking to our communities from afar, our communities back home. I don't think we really design HIYA as a festival for the West. I think we've given up on trying to convince the West of like how incredible we are. I think we're back to like trying to talk to each other and grow together and talk to our communities and engage with local traditions and legacies.
Yeah.
So talk about that, about being neither here nor there. I think that we're all dealing with, right?
Well, it's so hard, Shirine, to say, to rap, we're going to talk about, and then say this, I'm like, lol. This is like the bane of my existence. It's literally what I think of when I wake up is like, where the hell am I? Who the hell am I? What am I? But I mean, I'm trying to stop worrying so much about where exactly I'm directing my art, and just knowing that it's coming from a place that's certain and going into a void. I don't know where it's going somewhere. But I think what you said is very important about like, in the industry, like just like statistically, just very objectively, we have tried to like make a name for ourselves out here. I can list so many examples of like attempting to like break the ceiling in the West, and then just like being like, damn, like maybe I still got to work on like things back home, and realizing that there's so much more power in talking to each other, like you were saying, and seeing like, wait, are there other freaking Egyptian musicians in New York City? I literally met one over the summer. Her name is Ziada. She's on the list, on the freaking, on the also lineup, which is crazy. And we were both like, damn, we both go to Hunter College. We're both Egyptian in New York City doing this whole music thing. And I gained a really cool friend, and we performed together before. And like, it's just incredible. It's like, I would have exhausted so much more energy putting up flyers of myself at Hunter College, and would have made like no real connections, versus this one girl who's like from my city. It's insane. But yeah, so I think it's it's constantly like a push and pull, this and that, I'm here, I'm there, I'm not here or there. But I think regardless, like there's so much power in talking to each other first and then coming with that ammunition to the Western world and being like, check this out. Like me alone, I wouldn't do nothing. But if I have this whole HIYA like community behind me, and I'm like, you didn't hear about this? Like now all my white friends know about it too, because like they're like, listen, like this is crazy shit going on. I'm like, yeah, check out all of these amazing female MCs. Like it's really, really an honor. It's incredible to see.
Yeah, Shirine, I think you raised a very, very deep topic to wrap up with. I think like exile is in part a state of mind, and a nation is also an idea. And we create them as part of our experiences, but also our communal experiences. And so I'm not a huge fan of that nationalist thinking, you know. I think in the end, as long as we can share experiences, that is great. We will always have that yearning and passion for that place that nurtured us, and we will always portray it through our acts, through our speech, through our food, through everyday basically little acts. So yeah, it's a hard balance, but I think it lives within us as well. What about you, Shirine?
Yeah, isn't it a constant evolution? It's interesting because we all have, you know, unique experiences. For example, I started DJing when I went to Jamaica, so I love reggae music. But then there's a common theme because reggae music is about revolution. It's about, you know, burning down Babylon. It's about coming together with like positive rhythms, you know. So it really spoke to me as someone who came from like a civil war torn country that is civil war torn and actually has been completely ravaged by the explosion. So I think we find elements of basically solace with, you know, within art, you know, within from other cultures as well. And that's where we could connect. But also it's like this, everybody has an individual journey where we all bring it together, all these influences, and then create our own basically perspective. So that's what's interesting to me. But it is hard. I think it is hard, you know, being torn away from, you know, your home, whatever that means, right? To have a sense that you can't go back, that you're not safe.
Don't tell me about it.
Yeah, no. Of course.
That idea of safety I've been thinking about a lot lately, you know. Because as hard as it is for us to live here in exile, we're still safe in a technical, more or less, right? Like you can sing, I can write, you can, you know, conduct your podcast, and nobody's going to come and like kidnap you or throw you in jail or torture you.
Right.
I mean, I hope not, but
no. But these are big privileges, and know that safety is something that I do be thinking a lot about, which is true. I guess I aspired to have like everybody be in a safe position to just speak their minds. One day we will see.
Yep. On that note, thank you so much for this really inspiring conversation. I'll be thinking about it a lot. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. We'll be speaking. So starting 10 a.m. EST, starting 5 p.m. Cairo time, on about 10 different platforms: Radio Al-Hara, Roots Radio, Hammam Radio, Sea Noise, Al Bustan, Beirut Groove Collective, MARSM, of course, and Mixcloud, and Discotana, and so many more. It's going to be like a
Meltdowns. Yeah.
So please share, and let's come together tomorrow for 12
Let's
hours.
dance.
Yeah.
Let's dance. Exactly.
Well,
thank you so much for this, Shirine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.